Michelle with Michelle Loves Books, and I'm finally here, now that it's close to the end of August, to do my July reading wrap-up. Now there's quite a bit of books that I will be mentioning, so I will be I'll be listing all the books in the description below. Also, as a little disclaimer, it's been a while since I read some of these books. Some of them I wasn't a huge fan about, and I didn't remember all of the characters' names. So, tisk tisk, shame on me, and I'm going to try to do better note-taking as I'm reading. Also, I think one of the problems is that I read so many books this month that maybe I need to slow down a little bit. Anyways, I read a grand total of 19 books. 14 of those books were audiobooks, which were also library books. I rent all of my audiobooks from Overdrive and Hoopla. There were 5 physical books. One of them was a poetry book, one of them was a novella, 2 of them were graphic novels. This month I also tried tracking how many pages I read and how many hours of listening I'm doing. I've seen other booktubers do it and they do it so wonderfully, I wanted to give it a shot. So the amount of pages that I tracked was 920 pages and 1,030 hours. Give or take. That's quite insane. But I decided that these numbers are not quite accurate. With the pages that I read, some of them were from books that I had started previously, and I decided not to tally those pages in with my total reading because I'm only talking about the books that I've completed in my monthly wrap-ups, so ones that I have started that are going to go into the next month, I don't count those either. So the actual amount of pages that I'm reading is not accurate. Also with audiobooks, I don't listen to my audiobooks on normal speed.
I listen to them anywhere between 1.5 to 2 times the speed,
depending on the narrator. And sometimes when I find a section that is quite boring, I will speed it up, and then when it gets more detailed, I will slow it down. So the actual hours of listening is completely inaccurate. I gathered the hours that I should be listening to from a normal speed. Like when you go to pick out an audiobook, it tells you how many hours is on this book, and that's just the number that I put down. If I consistently listen to books at 2 times the speed, it'd be quite easy to do the math. However, I am not going to do the math to figure out what a book that is 6 hours and 37 minutes at 1.75 the speed. Also, I decided it really doesn't matter to me. It's really time consuming to log all those hours when I could be actually reading. However, one thing that I do want to track, I believe, is what genres I'm reading. Now, my definition of reading diverse, I believe, is much different than a lot of other booktubers in this community. To me, reading diverse is reading from a bunch of different genres, like a thriller, middle grade, YA, adult, nonfiction, mystery, you get the gist. So that is definitely one thing I do want to track is what genres I'm reading from, and because I have a lot of classics that I want to start reading as well, and I haven't quite touched them yet. So while I don't care about exactly how many pages I'm reading, I do want to make sure that I'm reading diverse for me. So now let's get into the actual books that I read. First, I read Legend. It's the first of Becca Fitzpatrick's, I think it's called the Legend series. This is a dystopian YA novel where the US is torn apart. These different areas of the United States are constantly at war. The main female character has been trained in the army and she absolutely loves what she does. She's all for the cause. She believes wholeheartedly in what her government system is doing, and she's one of the best in her class. She is gung-ho about being promoted in the army, and then they send her on a mission to retrieve Day. She has been told that he is a highly dangerous criminal, and this is why they trusted her with this task. But after her observations, she starts to doubt that he is as bad as they made him out to be. Honestly, I wasn't a huge fan of this one, and it sounds so good, and I really wanted to love it because I know that it has nothing but good reviews from other booktubers whose opinions I really trust. I can't exactly put my finger on why I didn't like it, but I think I definitely need to give this book another try. Sometimes I suspect that maybe I have other things on my mind sometimes, especially when I'm listening to audiobooks. I tend to listen to a lot of audiobooks when I'm working, so I am a little bit distracted. Plus, just having other things on my mind with other books I'm thinking about reading or a book that's sitting next to my bed and I'm like, I don't really want to work today. I want to lay in bed and I want to read my book. And I think that this affects how I receive a book. Does this ever happen to you? How do you end up dealing? Do you just end up rereading a book? I hate to reread books just because I wasn't paying attention. If I reread a book, I want to reread it because I love it. And so I do find it kind of frustrating when I was like, I should have paid more close attention the first time around. Next, I also read the entire collection of Jennifer L. Armentrout's Lux series. And while I was looking up the titles today, I realized there is another book which is at the end of the series. It's like 5.5, and so hopefully my library has that one too. I read these books in the order of the storyline, starting with the prequel Shadows, and then there was
Obsidian, Onyx, Opal, Origin, and Opposition.
Also, I'm super excited. There's another story in this universe which takes place 5 years after these books. It's called The Last Star. It does have new characters, but I was able to read the first glimpse on Bookish first, and I still love the new characters, and I absolutely love Jennifer's style of writing. This book is going to be just as good. I absolutely loved this series. It's most commonly referred to a Twilight but with aliens, and I would definitely kind of have to agree on that one. Even if you're not a fan of Twilight, I strongly suggest that you do pick this up because it's a lot snarkier and it's a hell of a lot sexier. And the characters are absolutely phenomenal. I absolutely love Katie. She is the coolest character. I did talk about this in another video, but I will be dedicating a video specifically to discuss this series more in depth and absolutely every tiny little thing that I love and adore about this series. So check back for that later. I also listened to Hush Hush and Crescendo by Becca Fitzpatrick. This series is focused on fallen angels. And well, I do not like this series. Nora is a human and Patch is a fallen angel. Honestly, Hush Hush wasn't that bad. It led me to pick up the second book, but then the second book was so annoying. Nora is so overly paranoid that it really overshadowed all the plot and anything else that was going on. There are certain quirks, I don't know if it's a writing quirk but there's a lot of repetition, I guess. But yet, oddly enough, I did read the next 2 books in the series. It's a 4-series book, so I did read the next 2 books, which I did at the beginning of this month, August. Nora was not quite as bad, although she wasn't exactly likable either, but still the story was still not that great for me. Again, I decided that I have so many feelings about this series that I'm going to dedicate another video just on the Hush Hush series, so look forward to that as well. Other books I read Warcross by Marie Lu. At first, I wasn't sure if I liked this book, but now I do kind of like it, and again, I think I'm gonna have to reread this book again. It's a futuristic novel where this advanced virtual reality game called Warcross is part of pretty much everyday life. There's an annual tournament with the best of the best players, and the hosts also choose some wild cards to mix it up. The wild cards do try out for a position in the games. The main character accidentally glitches herself into the game and gets noticed by the game maker. But instead of getting in trouble, she is commissioned to help him with a highly top secret and dangerous project. There is a sequel to this called Wild Card, and I'm not sure when the book was released. I think it was either just released or it will be released shortly. I meant to look that up before I did this video, but I didn't, so if I find that out, I might put it in the description below. Then I also read Nightshade. It's the beginning of a really cool werewolf story. As I am worried about this video being excruciatingly long, I'm going to try to wrap this up extremely quickly by highlighting the absolute best parts that I thought stood out to me in this series. First of all, it's that the werewolves are quite different. It's more of an illusion versus a physical transformation into their wolf state back into their human state. They can still wear their clothes, and whatever they were wearing when they changed into their wolf form, they will be wearing it when they transform back into their human form. It is also more of pagan or witchcraft kind of, a lot of the symbolism and stuff like that is from like a witchcraft perspective, how the magic works to change them. Also, they live in kind of a small town where it's primarily the pack that runs this town. There are some humans and they do try to keep it secret as best they can. They are extremely very cliquey. These are high school students, so this is another young adult novel. At the high school, all the pack members stick together and they really do not mingle with the humans. The humans kind of tend to stay away from them anyways. And then this new kid comes to town. It kind of throws a kink in the change. The main character starts breaking all the rules for this boy and she doesn't even quite know why. It's really good. I think I'm definitely going to continue the series. Then I read The Renegades. And this is an extremely popular book. I'm sure you know all about it, so I'm not actually going to throw a synopsis in here because I do have a problem with being too repetitive with extremely popular books, but it is about superheroes. And as a huge comic book fan, I really loved this concept. And while I don't actually read superhero comics, I do love the movies. And I extremely appreciate the carryover from comic books to literature. And now for the physical books. The poetry book that I read was Love Her Wild by Atticus. While some of the some of the poems are actual more poetry. There are also some that are more, I would say, belong on memes as like sentimental quips, possibly. I don't know if that's how you'd say it. We're gonna go with that. I read this in one day. It was one of the books I chose to read during the readathon, but I think that that was the best way to enjoy this book because this book is broken up into 3 sections. The first section is love, the second section is her, and the last section is wild. And it really just takes you on a journey. I do think that this is a book that you kind of need to take as a whole to understand the grand scheme of the purpose of the book, I would say. I'm gonna assume that this is Atticus's feelings about a girl, and the first section is kind of more how he observes her and she's gorgeous and she's beautiful and he's falling in love with her and it's really beautiful and it's fun and it's sweet. And then the second section is a little bit more about her and her like inner feelings. There's a little bit of depression there, and I just thought that the depression was extremely beautifully written. And then the last section, I don't know if it's kind of meant to be like a coming, I wouldn't say coming of age, but like a transformation where she kind of goes through this like depressed state and then she's happy and wild and free again towards the... Now, if you've been on my channel very long, you might know that poetry is not really a strong point for me. I don't understand poetry. I was really excited that I enjoyed this one so much while it's more simplistically written. So it was easy for me to understand it. That was the problem with this. I also know that poetry is kind of meant to mean something different to the reader. So this is just what I gathered from my experience with this book. Next up, I read The Wicked Deep by Shay Earnshaw. This book was the group book for the summer biannual Bibliothon this year, and I really loved this book. The atmosphere was really cool and eerie. At first it kind of felt more like a fall book, but it does take place in summer, so I think that that's why this book was such a great summer read. It was really rich, and you really could feel like you were there on that island with Penny. The writing was absolutely wonderful. I thought that Shay Earnshaw did a wonderful job of like creating this atmosphere, and the characters were pretty complex as well, and I really thought that even if they're not super complex in themselves, she just did a really good job of, in such a short book, of really giving you the time to come up with your own conclusions and then slowly reveal things about their character. And I had a lot of fun with that. The ending though, I hate to say I disliked it or I liked it or it was good or it was bad, but it kind of just makes me go, I don't know how I feel about Bo now. Like, I really, really liked him, but I kind of feel like he was kind of dumb in the end. Some people might agree with the way he reacted. I didn't get it, why he would react that way, but we don't always understand other people and the things that they do and why they feel the way that they feel. So I didn't know quite how I personally felt about the ending. And I just realized that I kind of went into my feelings before I explained what this book was about. Fail. Yeah, I totally did that out of order. I know you're supposed to explain what the book's about and then get into your feelings about it. Anyways, here we go. So, this book is about... First, it takes place, I believe, in the Oregon coast. Sorry, don't quote me on that. It's been a little bit. And I don't know where that is right now. But anyways, it takes place on a coastal town, and this town has a curse. Every summer solstice, So every summer solstice, 3 dead witches from the past lure girls into the ocean to possess their bodies. Throughout the week, they each find a boy to drown in the ocean. And I still loved everything about this book, but now that I think about it after, I'm like, the people in this town are so lame. First, knowing that this is a pattern every year, and most of the townspeople believe in this legend, and they have dead bodies to back the story up. These people still choose to live there. Like, I don't know. I would probably move. Or if you can't move because economically, maybe it's just really not feasible to move, you're all settled in and maybe they don't have a lot of money, that's cool. But they do virtually nothing to try to protect their children. The kids go off and have these beach parties on the start of the summer solstice. You just think that the people of this town, they would like put police officers on the beach to make sure nobody goes down there or something, or close off the beaches, or, you know, just anything, but they don't. It's like all the grown-ups are just kind of like, whatever. Even though a lot of them have like lost their own children or they've known someone who has died and yet they still just, oh, whatever. I don't know. I don't get it. But there are some people who don't believe in the legend, so that kind of, maybe makes sense. Also, I thought it was really interesting that tourists come from out of town to go to this party. I thought that was really interesting part because if there's like a haunted site, tourists go to these places. So that's really realistic and I thought that was cool. But overall, I really loved this book. Now I just have a few more books that I read I'm going to toss in here. That is the 2 graphic novels that I read. I Hate Fairyland, Volume 1 by Scotty Young, and Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Season 8, Volume 1. And then finally, but definitely not least, is Novella to the Darkest Minds. It comes after the first book, Darkest Minds, called In Time. It's marked number 1.5. And this book was so good, and I cried at the end. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up this July reading wrap up, and I will catch you later. Bye!